Right, Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam, Doctor.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Alright, thank you guys for your response. Means that you can hear me clearly. Okay, I think all of you already here. So we are going to start straight away with chapter 3. Okay, so chapter 3 is on operation, which is clause 8. Okay, so what is operation? Once you hear the word operation, clause 8 is on the operation. Once you hear these keywords operation, you need to imagine any operation happen. Okay, for your scope, it is in laboratory. Any operation involved in the lab, or if you want to make it bigger, you can imagine any company, any plant, any chemical plants that involve any operation. Okay, all the operation in the lab or in the company in a factory, they must fulfill the requirement in ISO 9001-2015 under clause 8. So subclause for clause 8 is 8.1, operational planning and control. So anything, if you want to do anything, any operation, first you need to start with planning. Once you have plan, you have schedule, you have planning what you need to do every day, every week, every month. You have planning, and then you need to control those planning so that you can make sure they are happening and you can get the intended product or services. Okay, so first you need to determine the requirement for the product and service. Yes, we need to know our product and services. What are the requirements? What are the requirements from the external and internal external and internal parties? Okay, our client, our staff. Okay, and those requirements are going to be fulfilled to get the quality management system. Once you have determined the requirements, now you need to establish the criteria for the processes and acceptance of product or service. Okay, all the criteria for processes, you need to establish them once you determine, and then you need to have the acceptance of product or services. What are the criteria? For example, if in the lab, you're not only working in the lab that produce product. Okay, for example, if you are working in food industries, they have laboratory for food product, food testing, the quality control. Those are products. What are the criteria, acceptance criteria for your product, for the food? Okay, but you also you might involve in testing lab where you give services to your customer if they want to test their samples. Okay, so you need to know the criteria, determine and then establish the criteria of processes for the testing lab or the food lab just now, and also the acceptance of the product and services. Okay, after that, you need to determine the resources. If you want to, if you already have criteria for your product, for your services, what are the resources you need to achieve the criteria? For example, if your target is to produce food with longer lifetime. Okay, so what are the resources needed? So you need to determine. Okay, and then once you already determine the resources, now you need to move to implementing control. Okay, you want to implement all those criteria, all the requirements, you already determine the resources, then you want to implement. After implementing all those three things just now, you need to control them. Okay, for example, if you, just now we are talking about food, right? To increase the lifetime of the food, you might need to change the packaging, for example. Okay, then what are the resources needed? Might be the plastic packaging, or you want to change to degradable packaging. How to control them? So implement the control for those criteria, resources, and also the requirements. Once you've done everything, then you need to retain documented information. Any document, okay, that involve in each step, determine requirement for product and service, criteria of the process and acceptance of product or service, how you determine the resources, any document involved in all of these stages, you need to retain them. Okay, meaning that you cannot change the document, the the records. Okay. 8.2, okay, we go deeper into the requirements for product and services. Just now, we are looking at the the step to determine the requirements. So what are the requirements? So we go deeper. 8.2.1, first requirements are on the customer. Okay, the customer communication, how you communicate with your customer about your product and services. Okay, first, regarding the information, okay, how you inform your customer, how you communicate with your customer. Might be you you put them on your websites, okay, on your company websites, the list of your services, the list of products that you have, the price, the criteria of the product. So that is one of the example for communication with your customer. Okay, sometimes some company, they do survey to their customer to know the need of their customers, and by providing the survey, the customer already knew or aware about their product and services. Okay, other example is inquiries from the customer, contract, if they already agree to work with you to test their products, or they want to buy your product, there might be inquiries, contract, order handling charges, all those things. You need to retain the documented information, the proof, the objective evidence of those documents. Okay, there are the example for customer communication, what you can communicate with your customers about your product or services. And then determine the requirements, determination of requirements. You need to define the product and service requirements. Okay, what are the requirements of your product? And then, you know, for if we go to the lab, okay, most of lab, okay, we are working with, we are providing services to our customer. Okay, if you have customers, okay, what are the requirement for that service? Customer confirm nak cepat apa? Nak result yang accurate. Tak ada results tu, kadang-kadang ada samples dia yang contaminate. Bila kita cakap tak ada results, dia marah. Okay, how to handle the requirements of this kind of customers? So you need to define first. Define the requirements. Define the applicability of statutory and regulatory requirements. If you are working with environmental lab, what are the regulatory, what are the statutory requirements? Kita ada Environmental Act, okay, those are under statutory and regulatory requirements. Safety, kalau kita handle chemicals, handle environmental samples, what are the safety requirements, and that you need to also define. Ability to meet the defined requirements and sustain the claims, and those are determination of the requirements for products and services. Just now about the customer communication. Okay, we go next for the requirements of the product and services itself. And the last one is review of the requirements. Yes, you already determine, but after that you need to review the requirements. Okay, first by customer, including delivery and post-delivery activities. Review the requirements by the customers. Okay, we have the requirements. Okay, we need to get the review of the requirements by our own customer. Kat sini bukan kita sendiri yang review. Okay, kita dah ada requirement, we already determine the requirements. Kita kena tanya pendapat customer pula. Okay, what are their comments on the requirements? Not only the requirements listed in the standards or in the lecture notes, but also include the delivery and post-delivery activities. Okay, feedback from the customer. Kita dah, kalau lab service, kita dah bagi lab report. Okay, after that, what next? What is your customer feedback? Okay, kadang-kadang customer ada soalan selanjutnya. Okay, that's mean by post-delivery activities. So you need to review the requirements by your customers. Okay, and then not stated by customer but necessary for specified or intended use. Okay, any requirements that is not stated by your customer but it is necessary, so you need to review those requirements as well. Okay, requirements by the statutory and regulatory, just now 8.2.2 you already determine the third requirements from the statutory and regulatory requirements. Next step is to review them. Okay, yang mana sesuai dengan lab you, yang mana yang lab you tak involve pun. Biasanya kalau environmental act ni dia list everything. Okay, for all types of services or for all type of laboratory. So you need to review and choose what is the best for your lab. What is the one that is suitable for your laboratory, and also the contract or order requirements by your customers. Okay, so all of this is under the operation. Kalau you tak involve dalam lab, mungkin you tak nampak lagi lah. But then just understand the requirements. Okay, in general, tak perlu pun you fikir detail sebab you guys belum implement lagi tau. Biasanya bila dah kerja nanti baru nampak requirements ni. But then once you heard the clause title, okay, bila kita cakap berkenaan dengan operation, okay, apa yang you faham? 8.1, apa requirements, apa planning and how to control. At least you can understand the requirement for each clause. Okay, and then this next 8.3, design and development of products and services. Yang ni kalau untuk student BSK jarang lah you involve. Okay, usually we involve in the quality control, product and services. This one is design and develop the product and services. You start from the beginning, how you design and develop your own product. Okay, that one lab tak ada lah. Okay, kita tak ada lab untuk design and develop. Okay, usually this one is for company yang besar-besar lah, company yang buat design and development. Contohnya construction, construction dia ada design untuk bangunan, and then how they develop those design. Okay, so kalau untuk lab kita boleh kaitkan dengan for example formulation lab lah. Formulation ni dia start daripada awal, ada contoh you nak buat shampoo. Okay, so usually we involve in the development step. Design tak ada lah untuk lab. Okay, development kita keluarkan produk, contoh shampoo, and then what are the requirements. First, 8.3.1, clarification of the application of development requirements. What are the development requirements? The design and development planning, of course kita dah determine the requirements, and then we need to have planning. What are the inputs? Okay, and then control them, review the planning, review the requirements, verify, and then validate all the requirements, planning and inputs just now. That is how you control them. And then once you have inputs, you control the inputs, you control the planning and the requirements, you verify them, validate. Next, you will get the outputs of the development. Kalau ada shampoo tadi, planning dia nak shampoo yang macam mana. Okay, how long that you need to produce 1,000 bottles of shampoo. Okay, that is planning. And then how you control those planning, macam mana nak capai, berapa orang staff yang you perlu, berapa banyak raw materials yang you nak, and then how much money that you need to pay for the staff to buy the raw materials, that is planning. And then once you achieve all those plannings input and you control them, you can get the output, the shampoo that you need. Okay, the criteria, what is the criteria of your shampoos? Okay, once you control, you can get the output. Okay, and then last one, any changes on the design and development, you need to control this one as well. You need to determine any changes and then control them, do necessary changes of just now we already talking about changes in previous class, right? So what are the criteria? You can go and look back what are the criteria for changes happen. So you can use them, use the requirement for changes for this class as well, design and development. Okay, 8.4, control of externally provided processes, products and services. So this one we are talking about external provided process, product and services. What does it mean by external process, product and services? Anyone? Any idea from the keywords here? Externally provided process, products and services. Can anyone give me example? You can unmute your mic because I cannot see the meeting chat.
Source kerja ke someone else?
For example, someone else tu siapa?
Saya fikir supply, but at the same time supply is a different thing. Kalau outsource ni macam hire, for example, another mechanic to work on the body parts or something. I'm not sure.
Okay, so you already get the idea. Okay, dah idea tu dah ada, so very good. Okay, externally provided processes, products and services ni tak kisahlah kalau you kerja dekat bahagian proses, you involve in the externally provided process lah. And then if you work in a product, producing product lab, so products lah. Kalau service, lab yang provide services to their customers. Okay, the means by externally provided processes, products and services, kita subcontract, kita hire orang lain untuk buat benda tu. Okay, orang luar lah, external. Okay, for example, apa lab kita ada? Okay, kita ada food lab. Food lab ni kenapa saya suka sangat sebab you guys can easily imagine the food lab, there are so many food and you are going to do testing on the foods. Okay, kalau saya bagi contoh yang you guys jarang nampak material lab. Material lab tu susah nak bayangkan. So saya bagi contoh food lab. Okay, you have food laboratory, you are doing testing. So testing masuk bawah services. Okay, you have customers from food industries. Okay, food industries, they want to test their food, their product, food product lah. And then you provide the services to them. You have gas chromatography, you have all the instrument needed to do the testing for food. Okay, dia pun hantar. Okay, you already list what kind of testing suitable for the food. Okay, contohlah ada 5 testing untuk food. Okay, nak check to check the ingredient. Okay, there are so many testing. Okay, let's say you have 5 testing for food. Okay, so this customer, they agree, okay, to your testings. Okay, for example, you guys are providing me the food testing services. I'm the customer. I have my food and then I go to your lab. Okay, I say that I agree with your testing. I want you to conduct all the testings and then saya nak result nantilah. Okay, dah setuju. Suddenly, okay, this might happen. Okay, and then suddenly one or two of your equipment, instrument rosak. Okay, they are broken and then you cannot do the testing, two testings for the food. Okay, dua testing tak boleh buat. Sekarang you kena subcon ataupun you hantar food sample to another lab that have the same testing with you, that provide the same testing services with your lab. Dia punya kriteria kena samalah, kena ada accreditation. Okay, once they accredit with the ISO, for sure they follow the requirements from the ISO. But then not only subcon lab, okay, we also have external provided products from the supplier. Supplier pun salah seorang daripada external. They provide raw materials, right? They provide chemicals to your lab. They provide calibration service to your equipments, and they are we classified them as external provider. Okay, we associate company, as I said just now, we have associate lab. Kalau company ni besar lah, but we put into your scope, which is laboratory quality management. So associate lab, we collaborate with another lab to do the testing that we cannot do, but we need to get agreement from our customer. We need to make sure that they also accredit with the same ISO standard. Kalau lab 17025, lab tu pun kena accredit dengan 17025. 9001, yang tu pun kena 9001. Okay, outsource ni subcon lah. Okay, contoh calibration kita tak boleh buat sendiri, kita outsource, kita hantar. Kalau kalau equipment yang besar, biasanya dia orang akan datang ke lab kita lah untuk buat calibration. Kalau equipment yang kecil-kecil ni kita hantar keluar, it's mean that outsource. These three, okay, are classified as the external provider. So how to select and evaluate those three? You need to follow the criteria or the requirement from the ISO 9001. So you select and evaluate them. Select the outsource, the associate lab, the supplier, how you select them, how you evaluate them. Okay, make sure they also accredit. Okay, and then information from the external provider, what are the information that you need from them. Okay, kriteria ni sama ada yang listed dalam standard ataupun customer you sendiri yang listed those criteria. Okay, kalau customer tak setuju, you outsource, okay, you hantar ke lab lain, you tak boleh hantar. It's either they cancel the contract dengan lab you, ataupun dia minta, okay tak apalah, go on je dengan 3 test tu. Yang 2 test lagi tu lain kali lah, itu tak apa. Okay, kalau dia setuju untuk you outsource, untuk you hantar ke associate lab, then you can do those things based on the criteria from the ISO and also from your customers. Okay, ada customer demand lain. For example, saya bagi contoh company yang biasa saya kerjasama lah, yang selalu saya ikut untuk audit. Okay. Apple, company Apple, yang smartphone you guys tu kan. Okay, most of you saya tahu, saya rasa guna iPhone ataupun you kenal kan. So Apple is a very big company, well known. Dia ni satu je yang saya nampak bagusnya dia, walaupun dia punya smartphone dia mahal, dia jaga quality management dia. And then they have dia ni Apple ni one of the customer from company yang dekat Malaysia, contoh kilang okay. Okay, kita balik semula. Apple dia ada banyak kerjasama dengan company. Ada company yang supply bateri, ada company yang supply graphite sheet untuk kurangkan haba, ada company yang provide chip. Dia bukan buat sendiri tau. Dia sub dia punya project. Okay, so this Apple company, dia dah list down the criteria for the subcon company. Apa requirements dia? Saya terkejut sekali saya follow audit. Dia audit for staff requirements tau. Dia pergi ke company A ataupun company B, dia pergi and then okay, they ask to interview the staff. Okay. One of the question is that do your employer provide you a nursing room? Saya macam terkejut. Nursing room? Okay, nursing room is for women, okay, that they have babies, okay, yang pump susu, okay, dia ada anak kecil and then dia breastfeed, dia pump susu, okay. So Apple ni dah nak tahu company yang dia subcon tadi provide tak kemudahan tu dekat staff dia. Lepas tu saya tanya kenapa sampai tahap tu, kriteria yang dia nak, because they said if the staff is happy, okay, they are going to provide a very good services. Okay, kalau contoh kilang bateri kan, kalau staff dia yang buat bateri untuk Apple ni happy dengan kerja dia, or employer provide all the semua kemudahan yang diperlukan, dia orang happy dan dia orang akan buat kerja dengan bagus lah, and they can provide a very good quality of bateri. Okay, bateri ni nanti Apple akan guna untuk diorang punya smartphone lah. Itu sampai tahap tu kriteria yang company tengok, yang mana accredit dengan ISO 9001. Okay, now you boleh relate lah dengan lab. Tadi saya bagi tahu big company kan. Okay, kriteria apa yang might be your customer need, and then you need to list them down for the external provider. Okay, once you dah select, dah evaluate your external provider, you get the information, you have the criteria, you need to verify the activities. Okay, for example, you subcon the two tests just now to the associate lab. Okay, you need to verify their activities, whether they follow the requirements or not. Okay, all those things, okay, you dah select and evaluate. How you evaluate? Biasanya you akan ada list of the criteria. So list of the criteria is the documented information. So nanti kalau auditor datang, okay, macam mana you evaluate external provider? Show them the objective evidence or show them the document. Okay, so that is documented information for all the steps. Okay, the list of criteria, the evaluation form, the verification form. Okay, that one is under documented information. So I hope that you can understand the meaning of external provider, okay, how you evaluate them and what are the documented information that you need to have. Okay, 8.5 production and service provision. Okay, first you need to control, sama juga, each of the clause, kita boleh katakan the requirement are almost similar. Okay, planning, control, identify, determine. Okay, so same goes to production and service provision. You need to control the production and service provision, identification and traceability, identify what are the criteria, what are the requirements, and traceability, you are able to trace them, okay, to trace the production and service provision. The third one is property belonging to customers or external providers. So this one is very important. Any property belong to your customers or external providers, you need to follow the requirement by ISO 9001. You need to make sure the condition of their properties is as how they send to you. For example, calibration lab. If you have calibration lab, you give services to the customer in terms of calibration. You calibrate their equipment. The most commonly the most common calibration is analytical balance. Okay, if you have analytical balance in your lab, you don't know how to do the calibration yourself, so you send this calibration analytical balance to calibration lab for them to do the calibration. Okay, so that is your property. The analytical balance is your property, belong to you as a customer. So once you send them to the calibration lab, okay, they need to ensure the condition of the analytical balance is as the same from before you send them. Okay, and then preservation, you need to preserve all the information, all the property, all the document for production and service provision. And what about the post-delivery activities? Same with the previous one. Okay, you need to also determine the post-delivery activities. You need to follow the requirement in ISO 9001. Kalau you tengok kat sini, saya keluarkan title dia sahaja. Okay, you need to understand each of them by reading the standard by yourself. Kalau saya nak keluarkan kat sini, memang tak habislah cerita dia. Okay, saya bagi you kefahaman in a very simple example. After this, please go through the standards. Fahamkan balik apa kriteria dia. Okay, and of course, at the end of the day, you need to control the changes. Any changes for production and service provision. Okay, and 8.6, release of products and services. Just now, we are talking about external provider, the product and service provision. The last one, how you release your products and services. Okay, so this one pun termasuk dalam requirement ISO. Bukan semata-mata you buat testing and then you give the results. How you release the products and services also counted in ISO 9001. That's why we call it as quality management system. Everything, okay, controlled by the ISO. So how to release the product? Okay, in terms of lab report. Kalau you are working in calibration lab, how you release the calibration certification, the calibration cert, and also the product and the property itself. Macam mana you hantar balik analytical balance tadi. Okay, so you need to plan the arrangements. Okay, kalau lab report macam mana you nak hantar? Plan. Nak post ke? Selamat tak post? Ataupun you ada runner nak hantar dekat company tu balik. Okay, dekat customer you. So plan the arrangements. And then verify whether that plan arrangement is suitable for your product and services or not. Verify. Once you meet the requirements, both from external and internal parties, complete, then you can release the lab report. Okay, kalau dua-dua setuju, customer setuju, okay, saya nak post, saya guna servis daripada post laju ke, DHL ke, and then complete everything, dah setuju, customer pun hantar sama ada dia sign persetujuan, agreement, or they send you back the email say that yes, we agree with the plan arrangement, how you are going to post, how you are going to deliver our lab report, complete, you can release the lab report. Okay, tak semudah tu kalau kita tengok orang kerja kan. Oh, senang je. Sebenarnya each of the steps you need to follow the requirements. Tapi once you dah follow, you control, you maintain je, ia akan lebih senang lah. Okay, kalau tak ada sistem ni lagi susah. Tak ada schedule, bangun hari ni nak mandi dululah, semalam makan dulu, hari ni mandi dulu, tak ada plan. So that is not a good, that there is no quality management system kalau you buat macam tu, tak ada schedule semua kan. Sama juga dengan kerja, sama juga dengan lab, walaupun lab kecil, once you accredit dengan ISO, you can say that you have a good quality management system. UMP pun ada quality management system. Kalau you guys perasan, kita ada e-com, we have IMS. Kalau tak ada kemudahan tu, saya rasa you guys tak boleh tengok, okay sekarang saya ada berapa lagi credit hour. Bila saya perlu drop subjek, add subjek. UMP dah bagi kemudahan sebab UMP ada quality management system sendiri. Okay. 8.7, okay, control of non-conforming output. Remember last time saya cerita tentang non-conforming activities, NC. Okay, a big NC, non-conforming outputs, which is dia tak memenuhi kriteria yang kita nak. They didn't fulfill the requirements from the standards, from the external and internal parties, okay, that are under non-conforming outputs. Okay, so 8.7.1, it's either you need to do the correction for the non-conforming outputs. Okay, tengoklah kalau boleh buat correction, buat correction. Kalau tak boleh, you kena fikir how to prevent those non-conforming outputs daripada jadi lagi sekali. Okay, either you do corrective action or preventive action. Depends. Okay, obtain authorization for acceptance under concession. Yang ni kena dapatkan authorization. Under concession means that there is a non-conforming activities, non-conforming output, and you want to do correction. Okay, that is under concession. Masih lagi di bawah correction activities. So you need to obtain the authorization from the customers, from your lab manager, and then you need to inform your customer. If you have any conforming outputs, any non-conforming outputs or non-conforming activities, you need to inform your customer. Wajib. Contoh dia macam saya bagi minggu lepas, you buat lab testing, suddenly there in the middle of the activities, for example, you have 5 days to do the testing. Okay, suddenly in the middle, dah 2 hari dah buat, blackout. So blackout, one of the non-conforming. Okay, you cannot get the outputs within the time frame. So you need to inform your customers. Okay, segregate, containment, return or suspension. Depends. Sama ada from the 4 things that you need to do, depends on the customer. Ada customer, tak apalah saya tak nak dah. So you need to suspend. Return back the samples. Okay, ada customer, okay tak apa, kalau dah ada electricity nanti, you continue je. Ada produk, ada samples customer yang tak rosak kalau ada blackout, ada samples yang rosak. So depends on the customer, discuss with them what is the best way to do the corrective action for the non-conforming activities. Okay, 8.7.2, once you confirm, once you achieve the conformity, then you need to identify the authority. Okay, concession obtained and then take the necessary action. Okay, ini the next step after you do the corrective action. Okay, that is under operation, clause 8. Okay, anything, any activities involved in the operation, anyone involved, any equipment, internal and external issues involved under clause 8, they need to fulfill all the criteria, all the clause just now. Okay, any question before we go to the next chapter? Kalau nak lebih faham, kena baca lah standard tadi. Sebab dalam standard tu ada contoh-contoh lain selain daripada yang saya bagi tahu tadi lah. Okay. The line here is not so bad. Always got decline. Right. So if there's no question, let's move on. If we can finish this standard, I'm going to wrap up and we are going to look at in detail for your assignment. Okay. Chapter 4, Performance Evaluation and Improvement. So once you already fulfill the clause 4 until 8, now you need to evaluate the performance of your product or services. And then if there is anything that you need to improve, you need to follow the criteria under clause 10. Performance evaluation is clause 9. And how you are going to evaluate the performance of your product and services, all the criteria are listed under clause 9. And once you need to improve your product and services, go to clause 10. Okay. So let's see clause 9.1, how you are going to do the evaluation. First, you need to monitor, measure, analyze and evaluate. Yang ni saya dah pernah cerita sebelum ni dekat introduction. Okay, you need to monitor. Monitor apa? If we are talking about performance evaluation, you want to evaluate the performance of your equipment, so you need to monitor your equipment. If there is any spare part that need to be changed on time, so you need to change them. Okay, if you in terms of measurement, look at the accuracy and precision of your equipment. Okay, whether the measurement is still accurate, is within the limit, okay, or not. If not, then you need to do something. Whether you need to do maintenance of your equipment or you need to do calibration, so that is under measurement. Analyze the data and results come up from the equipment. Okay, before this, masa awal-awal beli dulu, you ada you buat juga evaluation, okay, and then compare the first evaluation with the second evaluation. Analyze the data, whether the data is similar or is there any big changes happen, so that one is analyzed. Evaluate the analysis being done, whether you need to do the calibration or you can still wait for another 1 month, or the condition is very good so you don't have to do any calibration or maintenance. Okay, those things that I give to you just now, I share with you just now, is listed under subclause 9.1.1, 9.1.2, 9.1.3. Okay, in general, what need to be monitored and measured? Okay, saya bagi contoh tadi equipment. Kalau you nak monitor and measure your own staff, okay, how are their performance, pun boleh monitor staff. Okay, measurement, you ask them to do the testing. Okay, the testing yang diorang selalu buat dekat lab lah. Okay, pilih berapa testing. Okay, evaluate their competency. Okay, so measurement is based on the measurement that they do using the equipment. Okay, kalau staff A dengan staff B, you have two staff, okay, doing the same measurement using the same equipment, compare their results. Okay, of course you already have your own results from the very beginning when you purchase the equipment. Now compare with your results from your two staff just now. That is measurement. Analyze their results and evaluate whether these two staff need further assistance. You need to send them for training again, or staff A is okay, staff B need to go for training. That is what need to be monitored and measured. What is the methods? Okay, kalau analytical balance kita ada standard yang kita boleh compare, standard weight. Okay. For analytical balance, we have standard weight. Once you measure the standard weight, you weigh the standard weight and you get the mass, compare the current mass with the standard mass yang masa you beli tu dia dah ada lah berapa berat standard tu. So you compare dengan reading yang sekarang. Kalau reading tu sama, condition analytical balance you masih bagus lah. Kalau plus minus dia terlalu tinggi, maksudnya you kena hantar untuk calibrate lah. So that is methods. Depends on what you need to you want to monitor and measure. So the methods depends. Kalau you analytical balance, kita ada standard weight. Okay, kalau GC, HPLC, equipment, UVVs, we need to run the standards. Okay, run standards, compare results. That is methods. Okay, kalau you want to monitor your staff, the methods should be doing the same testing with the same, using same sample, same equipment, and same competency lah. Kalau you nak evaluate staff A dengan staff B, make sure they know how to use the equipment. Janganlah pula dia tak tahu, you pergi test di situ, memang fail lah kan. Okay, so what are the methods? When to monitor and do the measuring. Okay, when you want to perform them, depends. Equipment ada yang setahun sekali, ada yang setahun 2 kali. Staff depends on the lab or the company themselves. They want to evaluate the performance of their staff once a year, 2 times a year, depends. Okay, that is the company or the laboratory need to define the time frame. Okay, when the result shall be analysed and evaluated, tu pun sama macam monitoring and measuring. Of course lah, kalau you dah buat monitoring and measuring, you akan buat analyse dengan evaluate dalam hari yang sama ataupun mungkin selepas 2-3 hari, depends. Okay, and then you need to retain documented information, meaning that you need to have record. Okay, you record the method used to monitor and measure the performance of your equipment, when, how, the schedule for the monitoring of the performance evaluation, those are record. Okay. Next, customer satisfaction. Okay, you need to also monitor the customer satisfaction, monitor customer perception of your product and services. Also falls under performance evaluation. Kalau customer you puas hati, maksudnya performance you bagus lah. Okay, obtain the view and opinion from your customer. What are their views? What are their opinion about your product and services? Method used to obtain the information. Are you using the email? Are you using the survey form? Okay, ataupun by phone call. Kalau phone call, you kena record lah supaya ada, kan biasa kalau you call bank ke, you call mana-mana company, dia akan bagi, the operator akan bagi tahu, okay, nanti kita akan record perbualan ni. Yang tu untuk fulfill the requirement of ISO lah sebenarnya. Okay, that is one of the documented information. Okay, tak semestinya dalam bentuk dokumen, recording ke anything, we call it as a documented information. Okay, itu dah ada contoh kat situ, customer survey, market share analysis, all those are under customer satisfaction. Okay, and then 9.1.3 is the analysis and evaluation. So the results of analysis shall be used to evaluate conformity of product and service, degree of customer satisfaction, the performance and effectiveness of your quality management system. Is the planning being implemented effectively? Okay, once you done the evaluation for these 7 criteria, then you fulfill the requirement of 9.1. So under performance evaluation, 9.2 is internal audit. So yang saya cakap audit ni tak semestinya external audit. External audit ni dah melibatkan standard punya company. Okay, for example, if we in Malaysia we have SIRIM. SIRIM tu antara audit company lah. Okay, before we conduct the external audit, okay, the auditor come to our company, we need to do the internal audit. Okay, internal audit maksudnya kita buat secara dalaman lah. Kalau you, for example, in UMP, we have a few labs, right? Analytical lab, organic lab, inorganic lab. Okay, so what does it mean by internal audit? We use our own sources, our own staff to audit. Okay, for example, lab organic, dia ada 2 orang staff. Dia tak boleh audit dia punya lab sendiri. Dia kena audit lab analytical contoh. Okay, so staff from lab analytical, they are going to audit lab organic tadi. Okay, so they the person in charge or the auditor, the internal auditor cannot audit their own lab. So dia akan rotate lah. Okay, and then for this internal audit, the requirements is frequency. How many times that you want to do the internal audit before the real audit or external audit. Okay, frequency depends on the company. Ada company kadang-kadang sebulan sekali buat internal audit sebab dia takut and there is non-conformity activities happen during the process before the external audit, before the real audit. So they do it every month. Okay, ada company dia memang dah establish, they are very confident with their quality management system. 6 bulan sekali baru buat internal audit. Okay, depends. The frequency depends on the management of the company or the laboratory. Methods. Okay, how to do. Just now, I give you one example of methods. Okay, you can rotate your own staff to audit other lab. Okay, you nak evaluate apa? Methods tu depends on the management. Okay, but need to identify and list down the methods that you want to use. Okay, nak guna survey form ke, nak guna secara evaluation form, that is depends. The format depends. Okay, responsibilities, that is responsibilities of the everyone involved in the lab. Not only leader but also everyone involved, staff. Okay. Planning requirements, so you need to plan, you need to have a schedule for your internal audit. Who involved, who are the person in charge, who are going to verify and validate the results of the performance evaluation. That is under planning requirements. And then of course, once you have the results, okay, masa internal audit tu you jumpa non-conformity. Okay, non-conformity list down and that you need to report to your management. Okay, so written documented information means that you need to have a record of internal audit. For example, internal audit schedule, internal audit report, of course, and that is also documented information. One of the record, the performance evaluation, the non-conformity, the list of non-conformity, that is under documented information. So you need to retain them. Okay, do the corrective action and continuous improvement. Do the correction and corrective action. So these are any results, okay, any findings during the internal audit, you need to do the correction before the external audit. Okay, do the corrective action, okay, and then report to the management. So the cycle are going to always happen, okay, so that you can achieve the quality management system. Okay, so subclass 9.3 management review means that you already done the internal audit, you have report from your internal audit. Now you need to report to the management. We call the management meeting as the management review. Okay, management, lab manager ke anyone involved in the management, they are going to review your report just now. Okay, but not only report from internal audit, Let's see what are the inputs for management review. Okay, we have how many of them? 6 inputs for management review. What are the things that management need to review before the external audit? Okay, first, status of action. Any action taken, corrective action ke, preventive action ke, what are the status? What are the current status? Last month, we find non-conformity during the internal audit. What are the current status? Already take the action or masih lagi dalam progress ataupun any delay, so that is the status of action. Changes in internal and external issues can also be reviewed in the management meeting. So kena tengoklah any changes, okay, and then adequacy of resources. Are the current resources adequate to fulfill the requirements of quality management system, or you need to buy more resources, or any resources is which is obsolete, so you need to buy a new one. That is the adequacy of resources. Effectiveness of action to address risk. Any risk, okay, any action done, what are the effectiveness? Is it effective or not? If not, so you need to change the action to address the risk. That also inputs for management review. Opportunities for continuous improvement. Any opportunities to do the improvement to your lab, so you need to report in the management meeting as well. So they need to review the opportunities. And the last one, quality performance. Any quality performance involve the quality objective achievement, whether you achieve the quality objective or not, okay, process performance and conformity of product and services, non-conformity and corrective action, semua tu audit results is under quality performance, need to be reviewed in the management meeting. So once you have inputs from your staff regarding all these 6 criteria, you need to have outputs. Okay, dah meeting-meeting, kenalah ada outputs. Takkanlah meeting saja, okay dan tak. We have outputs. So what are the outputs? Are the decision and actions related to opportunities of improvement, any need for changes, and resources needed. So make decision. Okay, for example, adequacy of resources. Your staff report in the management meeting, tak cukup resources, ada yang obsolete, kena tukar. So make decision and take necessary action. If you decide to buy a new one, make action. Kenalah allocate money, takkanlah tak ada buat apa-apa. Okay, kita decide nak beli, lepas tu tak ada apa-apa tindakan. Need to allocate the money for the resources needed. Any changes, okay, opportunities for improvement yang you dapat daripada management meeting tadi, so need to get decision, need to have a decision and actions. So for inputs and outputs, you need to retain the documented information. For example, minute of meeting. So minute of meeting tu jadi objective evidence ataupun proof yang you dah fulfill requirements for clause 9.3. Okay, so now we move to last clause for 9001-2015. Any question, guys, for performance evaluation? Okay, no question. We move to last clause, which is clause 10, non-conformity. Clause 10 is improvement. So the sub-clause, saya dekat dalam slide ni ataupun lecture saya, I focus on the most important and critical sub-clause. Okay, so we go straight away to sub-clause 10.2. Which is non-conformity and corrective action. So non-conformity, saya dah sebut banyak kali what is the non-conformity. Okay, anything that you don't fulfill the requirements, so it is considered as non-conformity. And then once you have NC, non-conformity, you need to do corrective action. So what are they? How you react to the non-conformity? whether you take action to control and correct the corrective action or you need to deal with the consequences. Ada non-conformity yang kita tak boleh do any control or correct the NC, so we need to deal with the consequences. Okay, B, evaluate the need for action. So if you need to do the corrective action, you need to evaluate. Some NC, some non-conformity can have many corrective action. Okay, bila you dah buat management review, dalam management review tu you discuss. Okay, we have one NC and then come up with the corrective action. Sometimes one NC can have up to 10 corrective action. So during the management review, you need to evaluate the need for action, the need for that action. Nak buat semua 10 corrective action ke ataupun satu corrective action dah cukup ataupun dua, then you need to evaluate the need for the corrective action. So you need to review the non-conformity, determine the causes of the non-conformity, and then determine if similar non-conformities exist and or could potentially occur. So evaluate. Once you have the corrective action, you need to implement. Okay, so C, implement the corrective action needed. Review the effectiveness. From 10 corrective action, you decide during the management review, kita nak buat, okay, corrective action first look very good. Okay, we confirm yang kita boleh do the corrective action for the non-conformity using the first corrective action. Once you implement the corrective action, you need to review the effectiveness. Betul-betul bagus ataupun you need to change the corrective action. So make changes to the quality management system. Okay, once you determine the corrective action, that is the best for that kind of non-conformity, you need to change the quality management system lah. Kalau sebelum ni you buat macam tu, ada non-conformity. Once you do the corrective action, you need to change your criteria of quality management system. Continual improvement, of course. Once you have, for example, in the lab, okay, we have UVVs equipment. UVVs equipment, it will change by time. Dulu, UV kita run dapat results. Okay, kita kena tulis sendiri results tu. Mana result keluar, tulis. And then 5 or 10 years after that, tak sampai 5 years pun, tahun depan dah keluar UVVs yang boleh print terus dia punya results. So that is improvement, dah jimat masa untuk staff you. So you as a lab owner ataupun lab manager, you need to identify the improvement of the equipment. Kalau tu boleh menjimatkan masa, jimatkan cost, then you have to change your equipment to a new one. So that is continual improvement. We improve our product and services. Okay, so you need to identify the suitability, adequacy and effectiveness of your quality management system. Okay, if there is any changes need to be done, any improvement need to be done, you need to analyze and evaluate your outputs. Okay, and then the outputs of management review. Dah bincang dah tadi apa what is the best for your lab during the management meeting. Then is there any areas underperformance or any opportunities? So do the continual improvement. So what are the tools, methodologies to investigate? Okay, so you need to identify them as well. Okay. So that is for standard ISO standard 9001-2015. Okay, with that we finish with chapter 1 until chapter 4 and all the clauses in 9001-2015. Okay, so remember this 9001-2015 is a general quality management system standard, okay, for all the suitable for all the departments. Nanti chapter 5, we're focusing on ISO 17025 2017 specifically for lab. Okay. So any question before I share with you the video on implementation of ISO 9001? If yes, you can now write down your question in the meeting chat. Any question, any opinion, anything you want to share with me and your friends? Tak ada? Thank you, Syahira. Kosha, so far no question, Doctor. Okay, Kosha, so far no question means that you understand what I explain ataupun tak nampak. Saya tak boleh nak bayang, Doktor. Dia ada dua situation. There is two situation whether when you don't have any question, whether you understand or whether you cannot get any idea of from my lecture. Okay, Nelson, also no question.
Saya rasa macam tak nampak apa ni tu situasi. Kalau saya tengok soalan maybe boleh dapat kot.
Nanti bolehlah tengok contoh soalan dekat final past year question dekat library tu kan, portal.
Alright.
Okay, once you go through the example of past years, kalau ada soalan boleh tanyalah. Okay, thank you Umi. Alright, so now I'm going to share with you a video on the summary of what we are talking about from chapter 1 until 4. Saya pun dah share dekat dalam Microsoft Team channel, dan saya percaya ada beberapa orang yang belum lagi tengok. Okay, sebab yang tu berkait dengan you punya assignment. So maybe you don't have time to watch the video yet. So today I'm going to share with you the video. Mana ni? Kenapa tak keluar? Sekejap ya. Boleh. Alright. Okay, please let me know if you cannot hear the voice. I'm going to play it now. Please pay attention for what this guy sharing.
And the first thing I'd recommend that you do is some reading, and most importantly, grab a copy of ISO 9001 from the standards web shop at ISO, which is www.iso.org. So that would be step one, is some reading. Now dropping down, okay, so you've done the reading, you know you need to do ISO 9001, you really, really want to know how to do this. I would recommend starting with an internal audit or your own little gap analysis in terms of what you need to do to understand what's the standard, how does it apply, and learn through the process. But importantly, what we're looking for ultimately when you implement that system is a whole bunch of evidence. So why not get started straight away? Do not, and this is tip number one, do not go and write lots and lots of policies, lots and lots of procedures, get a whole bunch of templates. You get too caught up in what you need to write down. So recommendation, tip number one, start with an internal audit. So that's step one here, internal. Now what you can do is you can jump onto the Best Practice Training Academy web portal and download an ISO 9001 checklist. There's checklists there for the standards. They're easily accessible and you can use that. So it's got the criteria down one side and it's got a spot to write any notes. what you're going to establish is if you can't answer a question, it's obviously a gap. That's going to give you some things to focus on and make priorities. So the second thing, obviously, to do in terms of tip number 2, and this is moving really quickly through to how to implement ISO 9001, is talk to your stakeholders. Who might they be? They might be the executive management of the business. They might be the manager that's asked you to go look at ISO 9001. It might be you. They might be your customers. They might be your regulators. Have a think about what their needs are. And it's really important to start to convene your system and start to assemble your system from day one. Now, once again, I'm saying don't go and write lots of documents. Just start with this process. The documents will come later on. So, in the context of thinking about your stakeholders, I want you to think about the opportunity to conduct your very first, and this is after you've done your internal audit, management review. So that is step number 2. Now, out of that, we can start to think about risk-based thinking, and we can do some analysis. So, step 2 is undertaking your management review and thinking about that process. So we're doing our reading, we're doing an internal audit and a gap analysis, and it doesn't have to be perfect because no one's checking up on you. You're going to start to build into this project. Bring that across with your stakeholders. Now, particularly the senior management or top management in your organisation, assembling them for half the amount of time that you think you need to. Just a short meeting to get them across what you've found and start thinking about risk-based thinking. You can read about risk-based thinking in the standard. You're moving down into that. So you can sort of take this offline yourself and start building out your risk analysis and undertaking this risk analysis that we talk about here, but the management review and keeping a record. So your internal audit, keep a record. You can use our checklist from our website as the record. Management review, set of meeting minutes would be your record there. I'm going to use a different colour. We're going to say minutes. That's our evidence there. Our internal audit checklist is here. Our risk-based thinking register is the type of evidence that we're looking at here. So we're starting to already build our management system. So what do we do next? Well, obviously there's going to be a couple of things. This management review and the internal audits start to establish our cycle of continual improvement. So moving right along over here, we can start to talk about our business plan. Now, you might say, hey, I work for a massive organisation. I'm not involved in the business plan. Well, that's not ultimately what we want to see. We want to see the management system tied into the business. Now, in the absence of a business plan, you can use ISO 9001 as the business plan. But what are we really focusing on here? And let's use my green pen again, is we want to know what the objectives and targets are. Now, there's lots of videos here on YouTube and on Facebook and all that sort of stuff, and lots of reading about SMART, objectives and targets. I'll let you go and Google that. That's a really great idea. What I'm giving you is the how-to, in terms of a flow, start to implement and build out your ISO 9001 management system. So we're talking here about business plan. So the business plan, particularly, we want to see the objectives and targets. Now, we've got another process that's starting to occur over here in terms of our risk-based thinking. And what we want to start to identify over here is our controls. And you can start to look and identify those as part of your analysis, engaging with your stakeholders. So your stakeholders, and let's just put a dotted line over here, will help you to specify what the controls are. Now, the stakeholders could be staff, managers, anyone working in the organisation, suppliers, contractors, to build out and manage those risks that you've identified. So you're thinking, wow, this isn't actually looking like a quality management system at this stage. What's the how-to? This is the how-to, because what we want to see the management system. We don't want to see all these documents. We want to see that there's a self-evaluation cycle in place, which is your internal audits and your management review, and we want to see an improvement process in place. So what we can start to do over here is start to capture improvements. So my suggestion over here is we're starting to talk about an improvements register, for example. So this might be a register, and we can talk about, non-conformances, opportunities for improvement, all those sorts of things. So that's what this is all about over here. It's capturing those improvements, and the standards talk about corrective action, preventative action, all those sorts of things. Now those improvements, they're going to feed back into management review. Okay, making sense? Now, spilling out of that, we've obviously got controls, and there's a bunch of other things we can start to look at. We can look at training. We can look at training as a way to have people implement the controls. Policies, procedures, work instructions, guides, all those sorts of things. These are all different ways to have people manage the risks. So it's all about this risk management here in the context of management review. So I hope that's all making sense. It's a really basic how-to video for you in terms of implementing ISO 9000.
Okay, all right. So that video just now are talking about how to implement ISO 9001 for a new laboratory or a new department. Okay. So this one already I'm already share the link in Microsoft Team channel. If you cannot click on the link, I'm going to share with you in the group. Okay. So that is the whole story. Okay, start to implement ISO 9001 in a new department or new laboratory. You need to start with the internal audit, clause 9.2. Okay, so start with that first, and then you come up with the non-conformity of your laboratory. Okay, and then move to next management review. Already have all those criteria, all those non-conforming outputs, all those inputs for management review, and then sit down, discuss in the management meeting. So next step is management review. So those written in green from the guide just now is the objective evidence or the proof that you can have. Okay, for internal audit, you can have internal audit checklist. Okay, and then that is the documented information. During the management review, you can also come up with a risk-based thinking, analyze any risk for each step from input process to output. Okay, any risk that might happen. Risk register, risk assessment template, matrix, risk assessment matrix, also one of the objective evidence, the documented information. Okay, so risk register also one of the evidence that you can have when you implement the ISO 9001. But in the assignment, I ask you to write down a report on how to implement ISO 17025. Okay, different standard. Okay, and how you want to implement for your new lab. Okay, if you go through the website, okay, for example, you dah aim FNN, okay, FNN food industries, right? Food and beverages. Okay, so you pergi dekat website dia, oh dia accredit dengan 17025, and then you baca apa kriteria yang dia share. That is for lab that already been accredited with the ISO 17025. Get the idea, and then imagine that you want to accredit another new lab for FNN. Okay, what you want to do, follow what been told by the guy just now, how to implement ISO 9001. Why? Why I want you to watch the video? Because 9001 and 17025, remember the keywords last time, the terms high, the first HLS, siapa ingat HLS stand for what? The terms during our introduction class last time. Highly saya pun tak ingat dah, tapi the term is HLS, means that the requirements is almost similar. Okay, so kalau untuk 9001, to implement 9001 for a new department, we start with internal audit. High level structure, thank you Syaira. High level structure. Structure means that they have a similar requirements. Okay, that's why you need to watch the video, understand and use the information for your assignments. Okay, if we start with internal audit for ISO 9001, same goes to 17025. We are going to start with the internal audit to find any non-conforming, okay, for your laboratory to achieve fulfill the requirement of ISO 17025. If 9001 have management review, ISO 17025 also have management review. Saya boleh katakan semua kriteria yang ada dalam video tadi semua ada untuk 17025. Nanti chapter 5 kita akan tengok apa beza 9001 and 17025. Okay, nanti once you already have the idea what are the difference, you can add all the criteria in your report. Okay, beza sikit lah dengan video tadi. So tadi 9001, but for 17025, all the criteria are there, but there is additional criteria specifically for lab. Okay, so to wrap up from chapter 1 until 4, okay, to memorize the clause, you need to first think about PDCA cycle. Okay, PDCA cycle, we have P, plan, D, do, plan, PD, plan, do, C, check, and last one, A, act. Okay, you need to have planning. Once you plan everything, everything is in the schedule, plan for internal audit. Okay, now once you have the planning, you have the schedule for internal audit, you have the frequency of the internal audit, how many times a year to do the internal audit, you have plan, who are the internal auditor for the internal audit, what are the criteria, what you want to evaluate during the internal audit, that is the planning stage. Then you go for do stage. Okay, do the internal audit. And then check whether you have non-conformity, whether you need to improve the internal audit checklist or anything, any improvement, you need to check the internal audit, the effectiveness of the internal audit, and then act. Act is any non-conformity that you find during the internal audit, you need to do something with the non-conforming activities. Okay, so each of the PDCA stages, P planning, involve the clause in ISO 9001. Okay, for example, for check, okay, check stage, it involve clause 9, performance evaluation. Okay, for act, involve clause 10, improvement. Okay, so remember the PDCA cycle and then put them, connect them with the clause in ISO 9001. And remember, in the middle you have leadership clause. Okay, clause 5, leadership. So why it is in the middle of the PDCA cycle? Because leader involved in every stage. Okay, so that is how you memorize the clause in 9001. And then what are the requirements yang tu kena baca lah. Remember how to implement the 9001 just now? The idea is to read, do the reading. You need to get the 9001 standard where I already share with you in Kalam and also the Microsoft Teams channel. Okay, do the reading first. You can relate the requirements with your own lab, or you can put yourself as the customer and also as a staff in the lab. Okay, so that is all about 9001. Okay, mungkin tak nampak lah betul lah apa yang kawan cakap tadi, Umi Yasmin kan. Dia kata saya tak nampak lagi doktor sebab tak pernah kerja dekat lab, sama juga macam saya dulu. I was a lab manager, masuk-masuk saya dah fresh grad, masuk-masuk terus audit. Masa tu barulah saya belajar sikit-sikit macam mana nak implement. Okay, you guys dapat information ni dulu. what are the ISO criteria, tapi tak tahu nak implement kat mana sebab tak pernah masuk lab, tak pernah kerja kan. Tak apa, faham dulu secara general ISO and the requirements. Nanti you boleh, bila masuk lab nanti you ada peluang masuk lab, okay, tengok keadaan lab you. Ada non-conforming activities tak? Okay, kalau ada non-conforming activities relate with the requirement of ISO. Schedule, mungkin you boleh bayangkan tu lab you buat schedule untuk cleaning ke, untuk calibration of the equipments ke, something like that. Okay. So that is what I want to share with you today. So any question before we end our lecture today? Last time we have a friend, okay, Kosha tak silap saya yang ada experience dengan ISO. Anything want to share, Kosha? Kosha tak silap saya ke? Saya tak ingat dah.
Yes, doktor, saya.
Anything want to share, Kosha? Sebab ada kawan you yang tak nampak macam mana implement ISO.
Sebenarnya saya pun macam tak ingat doktor because dah lama saya buat intern. Mungkin bila tengok dekat dia punya dokumen semua nampak balik dia punya proses lah.
Okay. Any non-conforming activities during your internship?
Sepanjang tak ada. But it used to have previous years they had non-conforming.
Okay. Of course, when you have non-conforming, you do the corrective action and improvement. So nanti dia akan cycle lah PDCA, any improvement. So that once you follow the PDCA cycle, you do the improvement, you still fulfill the quality management system requirements. Kita tak semestinya okay dah ada non-conforming, habislah kita lepas ni memang kena tarik balik lah ISO standard certificate kita, tak. Okay, macam mana you control that non-conforming activities also a requirements. Okay, also a requirements under 9001. Okay, so I hope so far so good. Okay, with this subject. Memang banyak kena baca, banyak kena memorize, but the good news is for test you are given the opportunity for open standard. Bukan open book open standard. You boleh buka standard tu nanti. Untuk test sahaja. Final exam tak boleh sebab bukan saya yang jaga you guys. Okay, orang lain. Nanti ada isu pula. Kalau macam predictable, we have a standard predictable keep by UMP. UMP yang keluarkan predictable tu. So yang tu control dokumen. Tak apa nak buat, nak bagi you guys. Untuk standard ni kita tak ada control dokumen. Untuk test saya sendiri yang conduct. Saya bolehlah bagi peluang untuk you guys open standard. Kalau final exam tak boleh sebab orang lain yang nanti invigilate you punya final exam. Tapi soalan dia lebih kurang je lah. Untuk tapi untuk final exam part saya tak banyak pun. My part is only 25 marks for final exam because most of them are already covered in test. That is another good news. Okay. Okay, if there is no question, so thank you for today. Okay, we are going to stop here. For Friday, you will have self-learning activities. Okay, buat revision, go through the exercises, go through the past year question, try to answer the question, go through the recording again, anything that you want to do, self-learning for 1 hour. I'm going to share with you the link for attendance for Friday. And that's all for today. Thank you very much. See you next week for our first for our first physical class, face-to-face. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am. Amber, I got a question.
Ada soalan?
Tadi kata final exam carry berapa persen?
Bukan persen, 25 markah. Daripada 100, 25 markah sahaja part saya. Chapter 1 until 6. Biasa question 1, 20 marks, right? Question 1 20 marks and then question 2, 5 marks macam tu. Yang lain semua daripada part Dr. Kamrul, chapter 7 until 12.
Okay.
Okay.
Betul.
Sama-sama.
Thank you, Doktor.
Welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
Thank you, Doktor.
Welcome. You're welcome.